A very special good evening to you for this topic that we're going to explore together this evening. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. Those of you on Zoom, and of course, the few brave souls that venture out to be here in person. We are still having in-person events until we start that renovation that we had expected would be underway by now. It will be soon enough, though, and we will always have the online version, even if you can't be here in person. And we will update you as things become more clear as to the beginning and the end of that renovation period. So a very special welcome. So tonight, as always, we have an interesting topic to explore together. And let me remind you where we are going with that. And so your thoughts are key to your peace of mind. You might have already concluded that, but we are going to look very carefully at how that is so and what you can do about that. So our thoughts shape our reality, influencing how we experience the world and ourselves. So we want to become more expert, if you will, on how to consciously use the power of thought. And if that suggests that you may have been misusing it or using it unconsciously, well, that's why we're having this conversation, so that you can be on purpose. So we will have meditation and interactive reflections so that you can have a practical experience of that peace within. And of course, if it's within, then it will manifest without. So, the first thing that I want to bring to this discussion is the importance of awareness. Because as you sit wherever you are right now, it is your awareness, meaning what is it that you are aware of, that informs your actions, informs your perspective, informs your point of view. However, most of that awareness tends to be external, meaning we are aware of where we are aware of what time it is, And if you're outdoors, you're certainly aware of, or even indoors, you're aware of what season it is. You are aware of certainly the things that we identify with, like nationality and gender and height and weight and race and color and all of those external things. It even extends to how we see ourselves in the world, because depending on what we are using to evaluate our sense of self, it has a lot to do with our job, our income, our neighborhood, where we live, and so on and so forth. And all of those are external things. And where we will have the kind of, if we are going to fulfill the promise of tonight's session, then you want to be aware of your thoughts. You want to be able to notice what it is that you are thinking. And the moment you shift your focus there, that is the very first step towards that internal awareness that allows you to understand and appreciate that thoughts you have, but you are not your thoughts. And in fact, it is that identification with, that misidentification, that moves us in this undulating experiences of highs and lows and happiness and sadness. You see, thoughts are not singular. And so usually what is happening is that we have to begin to appreciate that there are what I would call thought forms, thought formations, if you will. And especially because so much of our thinking is based on what we are experiencing in the outer world, a lot of it is very, very negative, because we are living in times of uncertainty and times of divisiveness, certainly times of violence, times of hopelessness and unhappiness. And that leads to a lot of the anxiety and stress, which is quite the opposite of this peace of mind that we are in search of. And so these are thought forms, forms that you might think of them as structures, because they are just as, even though they are not physical structures, they are mental structures that we identify with. And so one negative thought gets reinforced by others. It's like it's like a building that gets constructed. And so that we have all these thought forms that reinforce that negative thought, which more often than not has to do with how you see yourself, but as well how you see others. And so if you don't think of yourself in a positive way, or you don't think of a situation in a positive way, then if, let's say, the thought you have is that things are pretty bad, things are not the way you'd like them to be, usually what follows is other thoughts that reinforce that. And so you begin to have a negative perspective is something that is accumulative. And so that becomes the thought form. And of course, you've heard us say that thoughts are repetitive. So even if it's not the same exact thought, it's the same exact idea, even though it might be a different thought that's reinforcing whatever that negative idea is. You know, things are bad, or I don't measure up, or I am not going to be able to accomplish what I need to accomplish. And of course, that extends itself to others as well. So before we go any further with the discussion, what I'm going to ask you to do is to pause right now and be aware of the thoughts that you're having. Because you're having thoughts. And this is why the flyers said we want to do so consciously, because it is the unconscious that we want to move away from and be very purposeful. So we're going to pause for a little bit and just be silent and notice what you are thinking. So that's the first exercise we're going to do together. So let's do that right now. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Okay. So that exercise is the first step towards our goal this evening, which is to have us be able to be at peace of mind. Why it's the first step is because in being consciously aware of what you are thinking allows for you to understand and appreciate that you are not your thoughts, that you are the thinker. And in the awareness, you're the examiner. You're the one that is understanding and appreciating and directing where you want your mind, which is this peace, this quietude. So you begin to appreciate what the I in everything that you utter, or who that I is. The I is the witness, the invisible witness. So once we went into silence, and I looked at what thoughts I was having. First thought that I had was, I forgot to tell Jose that he should turn the lights off. And then I said, then the next thought, well, it really doesn't matter because, and I can't have him turn the lights off now anyway, because we already started the meditation and without even finishing that thought, I started to wonder in my thoughts if you are having the experience that this experiment wants you to have. So I started to think about you collectively. And then the thought that came next was, okay, I need to get to this space of silence and quietude that I want. And so I went through all of those steps, and then I started to hear my own internal organs operating, the breathing, the heartbeat, and so on. So I went through all of those steps, and then I started to have those sounds that I was listening to become just background, and all that was left was all that was left was me, the one that is aware. And so I stayed in that awareness. And in that awareness, I began to experience the silence, the quiet the peace that's possible, even when there's noise all around, because the main control you need to have is the internal one. And so I was able to get there, but I had to go through the trivial, even though I set out with a purpose, there is this default condition that we have where we become our minds rather than we're able to manage our minds. And that's the kind of self-management that's possible with the first level of awareness. And before we get through this evening, I want to make sure that we can get to that second level. So, anyone want to share what their experience was? I think that may just have been, I don't know how many minutes that was, but what was your experience of that? Did you experience yourself as being able to observe? Were you the silent witness, or you just weren't able to disengage? How was that for you? Because we're only going to be together for this hour this evening. And if this is going to be something which you will use, then we want to make sure that you have all of the things that get in the way. So anyone want to share what their experience was? And that includes our small group that has joined us in person.
I can share. I can't put my video on, but I can share. Can you hear me? I'm assuming you can hear me. So first I sat there and I was like, what are my thoughts? I don't have any thoughts. And then I started to have a million thoughts about everything that I had to do, like an ongoing list of things that I just have to do. I have to do. I have to do. And then after a few minutes, I was like, oh, this is a long time. And then I told myself to just breathe. And then eventually, like near the very end, it didn't feel like I had any thoughts again, but I was like not trying to think too hard to have any thoughts, if that makes sense.
Okay. That's interesting. You realize that when you said, or when you thought that you were not having any thoughts, that was a thought.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, it's very, I mean, considering that this arena of thought is so pervasive, you would think that we would obtain this mastery. But it's very very challenging. And I'm going to identify for us why that's so, which is the next step we're going to take. Any other experiences you would like to share, please do. Because remember, we're collectively, by the way, we are thinking together. I know that being on Zoom, you can't really, unless you've had this awareness before, we don't understand and appreciate the extent to which our thoughts are shared. Not necessarily exactly what you are thinking, but your perspective. This is why in situations people do things they would not do on their own when they're in a crowd. You know, I've heard a lot of people say who have been um, charged with being part of a mob. And they would say, I never thought I would do something like that. But collectively, that's what the mob was doing. And they found themselves actually doing exactly the things that they never thought that they would do. And so what we're doing here together allows for us to benefit from each other's effort. And so collectively, we create a spiritual environment, an environment of peace, an environment with that one purpose. Because there are no boundaries to your thoughts. Even before we had Zoom and all the other ways that we communicate now, our thoughts were affecting each other. And so the more we have these conversations, the more familiar you'll become with your thinking and be able to understand and appreciate why it's so important for you to have this self-mastery. So anyone else want to share what their experience was of the last 10 minutes of thinking or attempting to manage your thoughts so that you have this quietude, this peace? Okay. So the enemy, if I could use that strong term, the enemy of this peace of mind is ego. That's the enemy. And so it does not serve ego for you to be at peace, because ego thrives in peacelessness. This ego is the false identity, right? And so if you are at peace, then you're not comparing, you're not competing, you are not angry, you are not experiencing a lot of anxiety. And that's the ego's domain. And so whenever you are able to have even 1 second of peace, which is timeless, because the moment you are able to quiet all of the noise and all of the temptations and all of the things that move you away from being your true self, that puts if you are able to do that, it means you're putting ego out of business. And so it is that false self that you have to overcome. And so you have to be able to disengage from the you that you have catered to. because you cater to being male or female, you cater to being your job, you cater to being the role that you play, meaning mother or father. Those are things that you cater to. Those are the things that give what you understand and appreciate as your life meaning. But the truth is, you are life. You are life. Without those things, you are life. It is you as the life that make those images, make those roles manifest and meaningful. So that you always are. And when you are able to have that realization, that is where you are at peace, because you are being your natural self. Everything that's not peace isn't really you. Everything that you are engaged in that is causing you to be upset or to be anxious, and especially to be afraid, is ego. The ego lives in fear. The ego that you befriend is really the enemy. And so in the next session of quiet that we will have, what I'd like you to do is to see the thoughts as not yours. These are not your thoughts. These thoughts are generated and you claim them, but they're not yours. They're yours if you claim them, but they're not yours. They're foreign. Why are they foreign? Well, because you are peace. So anything that is taking you away from that is alien, belongs not to you. You are love. You are harmony. And so what you want to leave this session with is that awareness of who you are. So you need to remind yourself. And in reminding yourself, you will then be having what we call elevated thoughts, because you're going to be having these thoughts that are pulling you towards a direction away from who you are. And so you want to have thoughts about yourself that are elevated and true, by the way. And so when you begin to experience that true identity, when you begin to experience that you are, in fact, truth, that you are, in fact, love, you will be at peace with those thoughts. And so it moves you away from the undulating emotional highs and lows of the negative thoughts. And what you are embracing, what you are befriending, is who you already always are. So in other words, you're not going into this session trying not to think of those things. Because when you are doing that, you lose. So instead, go into the session realizing and embracing that you are peace. So you're not trying to become peaceful. You are seeing yourself as who you are. And so bring those thoughts, embrace those thoughts. So you don't have to become peaceful because you already are that, and you need to bring those thoughts to the fore. Okay? And then I'll ask you to share. Okay? So, Jose, you can turn the lights off now. Very good. Okay. So just go within and don't try not to think. Just think of yourself as beautiful. Think of yourself as loveful. Think of yourselves as knowledgeful. Think of yourselves as powerful. Think of yourself as fortunate. Think of yourself as free. And you can, any one of those thoughts will elevate you and bring you peace. You don't have to, they are connected. So any one will do. And so stay with who you are for the next few minutes. And then I'd like you to share. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Okay. So, did you find it any easier to be at peace and to have an experience that was uplifting? Anyone?
I was thinking of being at peace, what peace brings, and it creates that calmness in myself, and it increased power of tolerance and acceptance.
Mhm. Indeed. And this is really self-appreciation, not to be confused with self-praise, self-appreciation, self-acknowledgement, self-uplifting. And there you can always go. And that is where you'll find peace, find yourself. That's where you belong. That's who you are. That is how you will appear to others as well. Your energy field will be a peaceful one because you are able to remember by simply reminding yourself. And that will create that space of peace within and transform it without. Anyone on Zoom want to share what their experience was? Okay. I want to share something with you that I excerpted from someone who has done a lot of thinking on this subject. And this is from a book called A New Earth. And if you'd like to get some fine reading on this subject, A New Earth is a good reference. The author is Eckhart Tolle. I don't remember how he pronounces his last name, but it's A New Earth. So here's what he says. He says, to end the misery that has afflicted the human condition for thousands of years, you have to start with yourself and take responsibility for your inner state at any given moment. That's the awareness. Taking responsibility for your inner state at any given moment. So if you find yourself spinning out of control mentally, you can stop that and change what's going on inside. Change your inner state. In other words, don't argue with the person, don't get upset with the situation, but immediately take responsibility for your inner state. That means now, ask yourself, is there negativity in me at this moment? And you know what the answer will be. So that's how you take control. Then become alert, attentive to your thoughts as well as your emotions. So that's this right there. You start with yourself, take responsibility for your inner state. And then he says, which is where we started our session this evening, he says, until that awareness happens, there is identification with inner states, and such identification is ego. And ego is the misidentification. Ego lives in that state of anger and upset and peacelessness and worry and violence and so on. With awareness comes disidentification from thoughts, emotions, and reactions. So you're able to disconnect. This is not to be confused with denial. The thoughts, emotions, or reactions are recognized. And in the moment of recognizing, this identification happens automatically. Your sense of self, of who you are, then undergoes a shift. Before you were the thoughts, meaning you're just spinning out of control. Before you were the thoughts, emotions, and reactions. Now you are the awareness, the conscious presence that witness those states. So you stop being those states and you become the witness, which is why in our flyer we says explore how to consciously use the power of thought. And those selected passages there is the answer to that. You are the awareness, the conscious presence that witness those states. And so as usual, we're almost out of time, but I do want to hear from you before we close. So is there someone who wants to share something with us? Anyone? Okay. Well, I'll leave you with one last thing, and then we'll have just a minute or two of meditation. And this is from our lesson today. We have daily lessons. And here's a small excerpt from there along those same lines, but very poignant. It says, just as a whole tree is merged in a seed, just as a whole tree is merged in a seed, in the same way, let the expansion of your whole tree, because you are the expansion of your essence, your seed stage, let the expansion of your whole tree be merged in your seed of thoughts. So in other words, you're removing all that does not reflect you so that that seed that is you becomes pure. And just as the trees that we see around us, everything that they represent is embodied in the seed. Because of course, when you put a particular seed in the ground, it's guaranteed to produce the fruit that that seed represents, because the whole tree is embodied in the seed. And so it's a powerful way to think of yourself. The tree, what others see, you want that to be authentic. You want that to represent the essential you. The angry you, the impatient you, the upset and worried person, that is not the essential you. And so it is that essential you that these meditation exercises will connect you with. And then you can be at peace, at will, anytime. So let's spend the last minute. Anyone want to say anything before we do? Okay. Remember, silence is golden. And I think I shared with you before that that's only half the quote. The quote is, words are silver, but silence is golden. So the essential you is that seed, that silence that encompasses all that you already always are. Om Shanti. And thank you for joining us, and be at peace for the rest of the evening and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow as well.
Hello, Shanti. Just wanted to announce something. So as you all were told that there will be renovation this month, but it didn't happen. We will keep you posted when will that happen. But for now, we still open for the public for in-person visits. And if you want to come by the center and have some meditation in the meditation room, for those who live close, You can come between 9 and 2 from Monday through Friday, and 4 and 6:30 Monday through Friday. And
Yes,
for
this is the oasis of peace. So you can take advantage of that.
yes, so and there will be a Raha Yoga course. It's a 7-day meditation course happening starting on Monday the 3rd till Sunday, February 9th. It will be from 1:30 p.m., 1:30 to 3 p.m. If you live close, it's in person only. So if you live close and have the time to attend, you can come to the center and take advantage of that course, and also share with your friends and families to see if they are interested and to learn meditation. This will be a good opportunity. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.